They told me that I had bilateral PCOS. I was put on an oral contraceptive pill for almost 4 months, but it only made my cycles even worse. With multiple follicular studies almost 6 times, and then I had to be put on injections to stimulate an ovulation. But that's when my doctor told me your body hasn't responded. We did an IUI. To our surprise, we came to know that I wasn't pregnant. A small confidence inside me that there is a chance that I will definitely get pregnant naturally, but I didn't know how. Where I saw a small, tiny, smashed grape kind of a discharge from my body, and I knew that that was the baby actually that I had conceived. Thought nothing in my life that I want in my life would stay with me. Am I again to lie on that bed for another DNC? Every day I would go take a pregnancy test and see if I'm still pregnant or not. You are here because you believed in me. It's time to believe that we will be able to cross this journey together. That journey was the mud, and that lily was one thing that I plucked, and that's my son. Wherever you are stuck in the pond, there is always a lotus and it always blooms. Hi, this is Sivaranjani. I have a son who is 3 years old and almost 3 years old, and his journey towards me led to a different number of things that I had to explore in terms of nutrition, body work, energy work, and everything. And I've built a career based on that. I'm currently working as a women health coach and also as a nutritionist. So my journey started in 2016, the year I got married. Before that, I had no issues in my periods. It was pretty regular, no complaints at all. By 2016, after getting married, it was a entirely different space for me. A different set of stress levels that I had to handle, different people whom I had to interact and know them, build a life among them from my place to this place. Plus, there was also a difference in the cuisine as well. So I'm actually from Thoothukudi, where it's everything spicy and most of the time spicy and high consumption of non-vegetarian. But at the same time, here it's been like more of vegetables and entirely different set of taste and very bland basically when compared to my place. So this adaptation led to one another, and a lot of stress factors after getting married led to one another. And apparently I had developed PCOS, and by the year of 2017 I was diagnosed with PCOS. So they told me that I had bilateral PCOS, and the conception would take a little bit of a time. And unfortunately, I didn't have much clarity like how I do now. I was put on an oral contraceptive pill for almost 4 months, telling that this will regulate my period. And I did take that, thinking that probably that would regulate my period, but it only made my cycles even worse. So a cycle which was around 33 days became 48 days once I was done with that. And after that, they told me that this has got a little bit worsened, so we have to do some follicular studies. And I went up for follicular studies, and there's been a very funny event also during the follicular studies. Like the whole family has to know, I mean, did know that I had to do that on that day because of my follicular studies reports. And once I come back home, we all prepare for that night. And unfortunately, stress played another big role, because thinking of that factor that someone in the same house is going to know that I have to have an intercourse that day made me go haywire in terms of mental peace. And it seems funny now, but then it was one of the most embarrassing moment, and a very difficult moment to cross at that point of time. I believe most of us would have also gone through that. But then in 2017, my journey with infertility, the battle started even a little bit higher. And with multiple follicular studies almost 6 times, and in that 3 times we had ovulation induction through medications for a few cycles, and then I had to be put on injections to stimulate an ovulation. And all these things started happening. And by 2018, when I was March, when I was preparing for another set of ovulation induction, that is when my father passed away, and I couldn't continue that journey of getting pregnant. or the medications and everything had stopped because I had other responsibilities to take up at that point of time. So we took a break, and after almost 2 to 3 months, I was back and in Coimbatore, and we started working on induction process again. But that's when my doctor told, okay, we've done induction process for a very long time and your body hasn't responded, and my cycles has gone really very haywire, so it's very difficult for us to track when you're ovulating. So let's do an ovulation induction through injections and everything, and let's do an IUI was my gynecologist suggestion. I told, okay, probably that's the way we have to proceed. So I agreed for the IUI, and we did an IUI. And after doing the IUI, to our surprise, we came to know that I wasn't pregnant. So the IUI was a failure. And again, after doing the IUI, they told me, okay, since you're not pregnant, probably the next step, you can continue doing IUI for another 5 cycles, because the chances of getting pregnant with IUI is fairly less when compared to IVF. So if that is not going to work, we can work for another induction plus IUI, let the cycle go. And after that, if you're still not pregnant, then probably we'll go for an IVF. Then I told, okay, this is not going to work, because I'm done and dusted with medications, because I was at my highest weight at that point of time, 73 odd, which I usually be somewhere around 55 to 60. I gained almost 13 or 14 kgs in just a span of a year with the medications. And I, somewhere deep inside, I knew that this is not the way it's going to work for me. And I had a small confidence inside me that there is a chance that I will definitely get pregnant naturally, but I didn't know how. But I felt that I will be able to get pregnant naturally. So by 2017, I think August, I just skipped all the medications. I told I'm going on a detox. I want to flush out all the medications from my system. I need to give a break for myself, relax myself for a couple of days so that I can see what my body is actually trying to tell. And I stopped everything by August. To my surprise, I found that by September I was pregnant again. I mean, that was not again, I was pregnant naturally without any kind of interventions. And that was a big hit for me in my head, telling that, okay, I had to listen to my body, which I didn't do in the initial stages. I had to reduce my stress, which I did in that particular time when I was on a break. And I did get pregnant in September. But then by 8 weeks, they told that the baby did not grow well, or it was just a sac, there is no baby inside. And they told that we had to discontinue this pregnancy because the sac just kept on growing, but without anything inside. So I think by I confirmed it by August, and by September I had. I mean, we had planned for it intervention, but even before that, I ended up having a miscarriage. I started bleeding out, and I still remember that day at the hospital at night, where I saw a small, tiny, smashed grape kind of a discharge from my body, and I knew that was the baby actually that I had conceived. And the very next day, I had a DNC, and after the DNC, I found all of them around me weeping, telling that this is very unfortunate, because it was just quite some time I had lost my father, and then I lost this. And after my father, I had also lost a puppy just after a month of after my dad, which was even more devastating because I was very much attached to animals. So that was one low point in my life where I thought nothing in my life that I want in my life would stay with me. But then it was also a cue for me, telling that, see, this is not just the end. We still have something in our life that we need to look forward. And that guiding force somehow kept me pushing, and I kept on moving. And by October, I changed my gynecologist, and she was the one who guided me in terms of nutrition. telling me that PCOS need more of a lifestyle change rather than medical intervention. And she gave me all kinds of dietary changes and recommendations and everything. I started losing a couple of weight, which was a very big a thing for me, because whatever I did not lose weight. I had extreme adrenal fatigue. And by October, I started seeing myself change. By November, I lost a couple of kgs. And by December, I had my last period. And the doctor told me that, okay, probably since even after losing weight, since you haven't got pregnant, let's start with an induction process after the cycle ends. But then it was already January. I did not get my cycle. And again, going through the process of medical intervention stressed me a lot. And that kept on adding more pressure inside me. And so the doctor told me that you take the 5-day pill, bring your periods, come back to me. Let's see how things are going on. We'll start with induction process and everything. So I think around Jan end, I was in such a low point, telling that, okay, something has to be done from my side, but I'm not sure what. And I didn't want any medications to bring a period. I wanted to happen naturally. I had that force inside me somehow. So we all Google, right? So I Googled up on so many natural remedies to bring up a period. So I made a kashayam basically with karpati and ginger and everything. And I had almost 3-4 glasses of it. So that's apparently something to shake up your uterus and bring out the periods. Okay, so the work of that has to be that. The process of that has to be that. And to my surprise, I did not get my periods at all. And I did not have any other symptoms of pregnancy as well. But it was a very confused state for me at that point of time. And I told my husband, okay, let's start the process. So if this is how it's going to be, let's do it with this doctor and see how it goes. So I gave the medication to my husband, and I told him to go get the pill and come. To my surprise, this fellow went and he got a pregnancy kit and he came back, which was out of the blue. And it triggered me a lot, telling that, hey, I'm not ready for this. I don't think I am pregnant, but you need to get me that medication. Then he told me, okay, let's do the test first. It's been almost 45 days now. Let's do the test first and see if you are pregnant or not. And then we'll probably, in case if it's needed, then we'll go get the medication again. I myself will go and get the medication and come. I found his logic to be very stupid, because deep down I felt like I wasn't pregnant at all and I was waiting for a period. And to my biggest surprise, I took the pregnancy kit and I did pee on it, and then I found it that I was indeed pregnant. And that triggered me even more, because I had taken all kinds of natural remedies to bring about a period. And I'm now really very, at that point of time, I was really very stressed, thinking that, okay, what would be the quality of this conception? Because I already lost another kid. And even though it was 8 weeks, I still consider that as my first kid. I did lost one kid. And to look at that small, tiny smash scrape was such a big hit for me. And I wasn't ready to see such another thing again. And I was still confused, thinking that, okay, how is this going? How is this going to go? Or will this pregnancy at least last for me? How are things going to change for me? Am I again to lie on that bed for another DNC, or take a pill to get this thing out of my body? So the very first message that I sent to my sister was like, the Upperwala is playing games with me. That was the message I sent to my sister when I saw that positive test. And I still have a box of positive kits. I think almost 15-20 pieces of the positive kits with me, because every day I doubted myself if this pregnancy is going to stay with me or not. So every day I would go take a pregnancy test and see if I'm still pregnant or not. I still have that collection of things, but that box is my box of hope. And that is my son now. And he's almost 3. His journey, I would also say this, that my pregnancy journey is not my own journey. It's also the journey of that soul traveling to me. And the process I had to undergo, the path that I actually took to get pregnant and to be with him right now is something that was really very heavy. And all of us would have a similar kind of a journey, but those journey were like stepping stones for me to bring a hope inside me that you're not alone. And at the same time, that the tiny little soul that is entering inside us, it is a ray of hope that kept me going. Because I used to get depressed very frequently because of my life journey. I used to have suicidal thoughts, and but after looking at that positive thing, and I heard his heartbeat on my wedding day. So it was another big thing to just give me a hope that, see, you have something to stay alive, and this soul has actually come to you because it chose you as its mother. And that drive kept on going, and luckily I had one of the most beautiful experiences in terms of carrying forward the pregnancy, except for all the vomiting, nausea, and everything. But I did not had any complications as per the medical things. I did not have any high complications. The pregnancy was a fairly good journey. This fellow did not make me eat anything healthy at all. I had to rely only on biryanis. I had to rely only on non-vegetarian. I had to rely only on parotas. So ideally, the things that a pregnant woman wouldn't eat, I survived only on those things. And to think about that again gets me into a guilt trap. Okay, what I fed myself during the pregnancy definitely affects his health. So how is his quality of health going to be once he's out? So and but everything toppled over, and he came out to be a very healthy baby. But I did have a lot of traumatic experiences while delivering him. In October 24th was his due date, but then by the previous week itself, they asked me to come for an induction, because since I had a miscarriage earlier, they wanted to bring the baby outside alive. So when they told that, it triggered me even more because of the miscarriage history. And then I got admitted to the hospital, and it was a very traumatic experience at the hospital for me. And doing a lot of pelvic examinations gave me a trauma that lasted almost 7 months after delivering my son. And after he was born, it was a difficult journey, because I had to see him in the NICU for almost 4 days with all the tubes inside him, and to see the other babies delivered at the same time on the NICU crying alone without the support of its mother devastated me. To see my son that way. And if at all there was one thing that I understood, I said, we prepare a lot during pregnancy with all the information that we have from our elders. We prepare a lot for labor. We don't prepare ourselves for postpartum at all. We have no effing clue how things are going to function for us in postpartum, and we have no idea how breastfeeding journey is going to be. We have no clue how to handle a new baby. And apparently that was the time when corona also hit. So 2019 was when I delivered my son, so which again led to another journey of learning more about women health, how to handle a woman's emotions in terms of getting depressed, postpartum depression, how our past trauma can actually affect your parenting skills, or how the past trauma, the journey that we ourselves underwent from as a kid, how can that affect us in our parenting journey, in our mental health while taking care of the kid, and all these things. I developed an anxiety. I was very low on vitamin D, and I did not step out of the home at all. So I had my vitamin D levels were 3, where the minimum was like 40. So that started taking a toll on me. And with all the high amount of anxiety that I developed, I ended up having IBS, and I had to tackle my IBS. I wanted to eat a lot because I was hungry most of the time, but at the same time, because of the IBS, nothing stayed inside me. And I also pushed myself to breastfeed my kid right from the time of his birth. So I met him almost after uh, 12 hours. I think I delivered him 9:30 October 17th at night, and I met him the next day morning 8:30, but I did not breastfeed him. to see him there in the NICU with all the tubes and everything, and I saw only his bum when I had a C-section. So when I delivered him, they just lifted him and they told, "This is a boy." Okay, so I saw only his bum. I do not see anything else. And I was taken into the recovery room, and I saw one picture of him in my husband's phone, where he was like had a lot of. The baby that is born is entirely different from how they look the very next day itself, right? So the next day morning, 8:30, when I met him, I was in a wheelchair. I couldn't carry him because I was myself in a lot of pain. And he was lying down, and he had his eyes closed, and he was just like this. But when I looked at him, I had just one question: Are you really mine? That was the question I had. And that gave a lot of trauma for me because I wasn't able to hold my own son, and to see him with all the tubes, it was even more devastating. And only by night 9:30 they called me to give they told me that either you come and breastfeed the baby, or we are going to offer him formula. And I told, no, I'll come down. And again, I was wheeled down to the NICU, and I went and met him, and that was the very first time I lashed my baby at 9:30. Almost 24 hours after is when I literally breastfed my son. And to my plight, I had difficulties in feeding him as well. So after a week or so, his bilirubin values never came down. And only then I realized that I had to feed him more for the bilirubin values to come down. And I had a fight with the hospital to bring him to my room with the phototherapy machine and everything. And he stayed me with the room, which gave me a confidence like, okay, you are here because you believed in me. It is time to believe myself. It's time to believe that we will be able to cross this journey together. And that journey led to another discovery that he had both tongue tie and lip tie. So we met with the lactation consultant, and then he was around 15 days old, and we finalized everything and we removed the ties. Getting the ties removed was again a big thing in the family, because we had no clue that such a thing can be possible. And the whole family was like, no surgery for the new baby. It's just, even if it's going to be a small snip, it's still a surgery for the kid. So they told no surgery for the kid, but I was really very strong on doing it. And we did get his tongue and lip tie removed around 15 days. And after that, I was able to effectively breastfeed him. So since I had a good supply, and I think after he turned 2 months or so, he started sleeping besides me. We started co-sleeping. And due to comfort, I started feeding him on one side. So my left breast was more active than the right, and the right would accumulate a lot of breast milk overnight because I was keep on giving in from the left side. So what can I do with the right side was my thought. And that's when I had flashes of this NICU, and I also had read about the breast milk donations and everything, and I started pumping a lot of breast milk. So every day morning, my first duty would be to collect the breast milk on my right side, and I started accumulating it. And by the end of around when my son was like 18 months old, I had accumulated a lot, and I had donated around 15 liters of breast milk in that journey itself. And few of them I donated, few of them they come personally to get collected from my place. And there was one pretty interesting story that I knew her before, and she had a miscarriage. I wouldn't say miscarriage, they had to abort the kid by 8 months, which was a huge thing. And this was her second baby. And she had difficulties in breastfeeding her, and she had jaundice levels up. And that is when she approached me if I can share the breast milk. And that's when I told, okay, come take whatever I had, and I gave all the stash to her. And using that, she was able to recoup her baby as well. So I felt those were the moments that kept me going, that okay, we are doing this for the purpose of not just my son, it's also some few other kids also. So we may not know who those kids are now. I know one or two, but then I'm not sure how many else would have benefited from that. But still, this journey kept me going, that I am doing all these things, I am studying all these things. For somewhere in the world, someone else wants my support or wants to hear my story, because that can be a motivation for them to recoup and do whatever that they had to do to continue their journey, rather than feeling that this is the end. This is never the end. Wherever you find there is a wall, we either have two options, like you either break it and move, or you turn yourself and find another direction to move on. And most of the time it's just simple as turning ourselves back and walking towards another direction, rather than just staring at the blank wall for a longer time. There is one beautiful saying that I got from my mentor. She told me that wherever you have a problem, it's like a pond of dirt and mud. So, but in that pond of dirt and mud is where the lotus grows. We look at the beauty of the lotus, we love the lotus, but then the pond is something that we find ourselves really very difficult to get inside and walk, because we are afraid of the dirt. But once you start walking inside the dirt, you have the lotus or the lily. That is the most beautiful thing. My journey of miscarriages, the failed IUIs, all those interventions that I had, which only further deteriorated my health, but gave me that lesson. So that journey was the mud, and that lily was one thing that I plucked, and that's my son. So wherever you are stuck in the pond, keep walking, be very mindful, be cautious, but keep walking in the pond to pluck your lotus. There is always a lotus and it always blooms, but you just need to be patient to look at that and to navigate towards that.